This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz. Hey.
All right. Welcome to the True Bud Show podcast, my friends. You are in for a good one today. I know I'm about to get schooled for sure because I did when I was at the Higher Path and I met Mason. And we also have Teresa here today, consultants, educationer, look at me, trainers, trying to use my acronym, trying to remember, but you guys are crushing it. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
For sure.
Thank you.
Super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have you. Like I said, let me give a little backstory. So the Southern California meetup group, cannabis group, Rico, I got his invitation. I haven't been to something for them in a while. COVID's going on. So I saw the Higher Path come up and I'm like, this looks dope. That your spot's dope. I've been in before, dropped off a menu and whatever. And then I'm looking at some products. I was talking to the guy, he was breaking down this RSO you guys have that I want to use for edibles. And then I walk over and Mason has this whole strain library thing going on. And he's like telling people about strains. He's like, there's this effect. You can do this. Like this will do this. And it's just kind of mind blowing to me. Like when you were diving into the nitty and gritty and you were getting questions from everybody around asking like stuff about the strains. And you were just like, and I was impressed.
Thanks, man.
Thoroughly impressed.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So how did you guys start out? How did you get in the game and what led you to Higher Path and kind of?
I can start. I've been with the Higher Path for almost 6 years now, and coming in November of 2015, we were still pre-ICO medical. I always joke that cannabis years are like dog years. So if you're in the industry for more than 5, you've been in the industry for like 20, and so I feel like that's really come to light working at the Higher Path. I've seen it come from its early stages where, we just had a few, like maybe 10 to 15 staff and now we've grown to about 60 in just about 6 years that I've been there. I started out rolling pre-rolls by hand at a reception desk and learning every single day, researching because we had the time. It was a little slower paced. It wasn't as fast paced retail. And then we've always just prioritized education about the products and about cannabis in general and helping people. And that has always been kind of our mission. There is, trust, education, and helping people, helping the patients. And that's, fell in love with that, wanted to stay in it. And then a few mentors I've had, Ari and Colin and people. Jared, our owner, Jared Kylo, has been, our fearless leader in all of this, has always inspired us to learn and educate. He's also been instrumental in the cannabis industry in California in general. He's also the president of the UCBA, which is the trade association for legal dispensaries. Okay. Once we got our legal license and it hit recreational, it kind of just opened the floodgates. So we kind of had to prioritize education because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And having Teresa come on within the last 3 years or so. Gosh, it's
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah. I'm there.
Well, you can tell also just from that, she's been instrumental in how much we've progressed too. I just feel like she's been there forever. So
that's really sweet.
Absolutely. So, we, she and I, as well as a few other colleagues, have created a education department. Fully functioning at the Higher Path because we believe it's more so the umbrella subject for everything else that kind of falls into cannabis and safe access to it. So,
and that was kind of always Jared's mission, I think, from the very beginning, if I'm not mistaken, was education, like making sure that everybody who was working there really understood the product and understood what they were giving to people.
As best as we could, yeah.
Too many dispensaries out there that, you walk in and a lot of the people there may not know what they're really talking about. So we wanted to change that.
Or care. Yeah.
And that brings me to a point when I was in there, people can walk in and kind of set up a consultation to figure out what's best for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have developed a consultation program a couple years back. Actually, we were starting to initiate this myself and a few other colleagues, including Ari Harrison and Teresa too. And we've always been at the Higher Path leaders of education in this industry, if I can say that confidently, in that people would trust our knowledge of products, so they could come to us for these specific consultations in terms of their ailments or what they are trying to alleviate, and have a much more educated experience about what they're about to use for their medicine. We want to reiterate as much as possible too that we are not doctors, we're not medical workers, but we are healthcare workers, and we have been researching this as much as it is possible to do so, with as much information as there is out there currently that everybody does have access to, but finding the right information is key. So that's definitely been one of our priorities. Absolutely.
And that's a great point. Like finding the right information sometimes is hard. Like I've gone on to look certain stuff up, or like even certain products I bought in the past, and I couldn't find shit about them.
Yeah.
And then and that's like, it's like a double-edged sword too, because sometimes I've made some content and I want to put something out, and like I always like to like throw out a disclaimer, kind of like, this is kind of just the best of my knowledge. Like I hope I'm steering you the right way, but this is kind of where I'm coming from with it. It's
and there is a point of we have to have some kind of common ground too. It's not just kind of the Wild West with information out there. There needs to be some consistency to these products and to this information. So we find it to be our job at least to help sift through that information to provide as accurate as possible, and sift through a lot of the stuff, like when the vape gate thing happened with all the concentrate pens and the vitamin E acetate being found in all the illegal markets, and it freaked everybody out, and all of a sudden everybody was like, oh wow, I guess testing is really important now. And we're like, yeah, we've been trying to tell you, and stuff kind of, we've been trying to be leading in the industry in terms of being accountable for our products and for these brands who are in it for the right reasons, of course, but we need to make sure that everybody's playing by the same rules and vetted and, in it for the right reason. But yeah, sorry to get back to your question. We do set up consultation appointments. You can either email myself, mason@thehigherpath.com, and we can talk about scheduling a call or an in-person visit. Typically we try to limit them to about 30 minutes or so we can, diagnose and see what you're in here for, what you're looking to treat, how cannabis can help you. And then we can set up some follow-up appointments, and we'll check in and, guide you through your dosing and the type of ratios and certain products that would best benefit you. And we have a few consultants available as well, Teresa, as well as my friend Harrison. And we all, if there's something we don't know, we're not afraid to admit that. And that's something that is very important to us, that we are always the student in this industry, as you and I were talking about it earlier before the show. It's important, especially in this industry, to keep an open mind so we can keep learning and for the right reasons too. And that's what this program's about. It's, we realize that we're not medically trained doctors, but we do have the tools to provide you with cannabis knowledge and the experience behind that as well.
And it kind of, and like you said, you don't say like doctors and whatnot, but like it's kind of too like you're putting in the legwork, you've put in the reps, you're that kind of like the 10,000 hour type deal. Like you're putting in the legwork, and it showed to me, somebody who's been in the space coming on 5 years now, and like it just stuck out to me when I heard you talking. And then I walked through and did the tour, and I saw what you're doing there and how it just keeps growing and building, and it's pretty special, man. It's cool to see, like taking the time to take the time. I know I forget where that's from, but it's true. Like take the time to talk to somebody about how they feel about it. And that brings a thought to my head, is like, with the consultations, do you find it's like, is it kind of an array of people, or is it mostly first timers, or like?
That is a really good question. I mean, I think it runs the gamut. I think we help a lot of different kinds of people. I do think that a large percentage of the people that come to our store are elderly or ill, and they seem to need a lot of help. So we do our best with those people, and but then there are a lot of people who just have never tried cannabis before, so very very much novices.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we just kind of get a feel for what it is that they need, and then kind of lead them down the higher path.
Yeah, and she's right too. It so often is. It is a lot of people who are first timers to cannabis, and I really love that. I encourage that, and I'm a person who's always after learning, or learning the right way or the right information. I'll go to the source, to find what I need to know, and we want to be that source. We're trying, we have put in the legwork, as you said, for years. We've prioritized research. We've had shifts dedicated to research shifts. We actually are developing an R&D department so we can collect data and surveys and try to determine what products are best for which demographics, because we have realized that, there's a lot of people, like she said, a lot of elderly people or patients who are trying to get off of other addictions or other medications.
Oh yeah, that too.
Have been very detrimental to them, and that they've read somewhere or have heard from someone that cannabis can be an alternative. And there also in lies a problem, is that the misinformation out there, he said, she said, well, they told me that just the CBD oil could fix whatever my problems were. Well, I'm sorry, that's a little far reaching. Maybe let's talk about what other kind of things could help in terms of what you're asking for, because that's where it comes down to that true information, or that more accurate information, which will come in time. When we start legalizing it and getting it more taken seriously on the federal level, and which it's getting closer to that, then they're already prioritizing cannabis research. So we'll have more access to that, and that's exciting for me. Not to get on this tangent, but I am a little nervous about how big pharma, and the health insurances, all of those different companies are getting into the game. But for right now, what we can do as our part in kind of leaders in this industry is put forth this information as best we can, have it accessible as well. These consultations are free as of right now, and that's because it's so important to qualify the patient and qualify the customer. No matter who comes in, we want them to have the best experience, and we want them to come out knowing that they can trust whatever they just heard from what we told them. And that goes back to the experience-based thing, which you kind of touched on, is we want to know how you want to feel. We want to know, we want to help you get there. And we can sift through a lot of the nomenclature, or the weird measurements of tinctures and edible dosing, all these scary things that people might have issues with, and maybe want to try cannabis for the first time. Like she said, first-time users are very common asking for consultations, because they're, it's quite terrifying to try a new substance that might be mind altering, and that's completely understandable,
and there's so much to choose from.
Right.
Yes, it's overwhelming.
It's like you walk in like, okay, I couldn't imagine, because I've always smoked. I walk in the shop. I still remember walking in the shop the first time. It was amazing, but it's like, I could only imagine, never smoking in my life, walking into a shop with however many SKUs on the shelves. Like, oh my God, what's going on here?
I know. I'm kind of grateful for having had that experience. And then later on, working at the Higher Path, the first time that I walked in, I didn't know anything about cannabis, essentially. I don't know if that's embarrassing to admit, but
not at all.
Everyone learns at different paces and at different times of their lives. And so I came to cannabis education a little bit later, and the first time I walked in, I didn't know what I was asking for. I remember whatever it was wrong. It was not right for me whatsoever. But I came back later and still had virtually little to no knowledge, and then I learned as I went through. And I think Harrison and Mason probably kind of appreciate that I'm there and that I enjoy helping first-time patients a lot. So they've been there a lot longer than I have. And I think not that they're so wonderful with everybody, don't get me wrong, but like, I actually really love it when someone comes in and they're like, I'm giving bought to my grandpa for the first time, or I've never tried this before. And I'm like, let me show you the world. Like, it's really fun.
It feels good, huh? 'Cause
It really does.
I've had that with this Purewana, like the lower dose, the 2.5 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
I've been at some events, like I was doing this Pineapple Express event, and this guy kept coming up, and he's like, they're not for me. I'm like, who are they for? He's like, my mom. And so she was pretty old, but she was like loving it. She had like 5 Blue Dreams, like 10 milligrams total.
Yeah.
I was like, here's a couple more packs. Like, that's fucking awesome. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool to see people getting introduced. And I feel like that's where, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but like my outside perspective kind of is like, it's more easy to kind of come in, maybe eat a piece of chocolate, maybe have a little sip of a drink, than like do a dab or light up a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you kind of
Absolutely.
find that? Or, I mean, I feel like it's hard to beat the flower at the end of the day personally, but like,
I think
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think it really just depends on body chemistry a lot. Most likely, probably, if you just if you microdose an edible or something, then I would say most likely you're going to be fine. You're going to have a nice feeling, and it's not going to be overwhelming for you. But I don't know. It just kind of depends on what you're into and what you go into first. I think it was recommended to me that I start just with flower, just with joints essentially. And I think the reason for that was just that the high hits you quickly and then it goes away. You come down after maybe an hour or two at the most. Whereas with an edible, it could stay in your body for a lot longer. But it really, it just depends on the person, I think.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Mason?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're right. And it lends itself also to that subjectivity of not only your personal body tolerance, but what experience you're looking for as well.
Yeah, that too.
So often I use the example, if I'm trying to treat my panic attack, quote unquote, hypothetically, I personally wouldn't really want to wait around for the edible to kick in that I took to alleviate the current panic attack that I'm having, so it's also kind of like what will best suit you. Maybe, a vape pen, something more immediate, I can inhale right away, that's CBD dominant, that can take my anxiety down. And that's, now I know my moderation and where my tolerance level is. And there's so many SKUs, like you said, there's so many SKUs, so many different types of products, so many variations of cannabis, which seems overwhelming, and it is, but it actually now too, I think, lends itself better to that new market, that those new entry level people, because we can take these 2.5 Purewana drinks now and be cool and give it to our parents and stuff, and be confident that they won't have to call 911 and the EMTs kind of just laugh it off. I always think like, how's that call for them? They're probably like, we got another one. Just tell them to make a PB&J and they'll be fine.
It's just like it is for us when they call us.
Right. Exactly. We're like, they're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Now, not to dismiss it, because that is a very uncomfortable feeling, to be out of control of your own body. And I've experienced that, being a very, I would say, connoisseur of cannabis. So I think we've all been there, and it's not fun. So it's definitely, where measuring out your tolerance, these new products out there, starting with, either pre-rolls or edibles, I think there's a lot more of the discrete factor being considered for products these days. Since flower is always, personally, my favorite. I love smoking flower and joints and pre-rolls and stuff. But, I also have a very high edible tolerance. And I think having discrete gummies or discrete mints or little disposable pens has really become a niche in the market, because these entry-level people now aren't as afraid. Just like you said, instead of taking a hot, dab to the face and you're like, cool, I tried cannabis for the first time. Whoa, wait, you just went 0 to 100 real quick right there. Instead, now we have the Puffco, where you can put a low temp dab on there, maybe put a little tiny bit of sauce diamond, just like Miss Teresa did, and have the best time of her life. And
it was amazing.
It was so funny. If I may just talk about that.
Oh my God. Here we go.
In the room. It was her first dab. It was awesome. It was her first dab. And another cool
Baby's
thing
first dab.
Another cool thing you saw when you toured the shop was we have our education space. And in that education space, we can provide brand demos, and we get to experience the product there with them. And she received her first dab there from Field Extracts. And
Make it sound like a sacrament.
I mean,
she received first communion dab.
Everyone wore their cloaks.
Yes.
But no, it was really fun because she got to. It was a controlled environment. It was a safe space.
Yes.
Everyone was supportive. All of those factors matter, as we all know from either experimenting with other things or just in general with cannabis. We know that, being in an environment where it's welcoming and safe is probably half of the experience you're going to have from whatever you're taking, especially with cannabis. And so I feel like that really helped. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just so fun having you describe to me how amazing you felt afterwards. She would just come up to me and she'd go, "No, seriously though, Mason, I feel great. Like I want to do this all the time now." I'm like, "Teresa, slow down."
But no, I mean, I started to really understand why a lot of people gravitate towards dabs versus flower and joints. Not that they're not great. They're wonderful. It just kind of depends, again, on the person and tolerance level. And like, there are so many different aspects. But for me personally, the high itself from the dab was just far superior quality. I don't know.
It's like super clean,
super clean. And it's hard to describe what clean means to somebody who's never tried it before. But I would say with flower and joints, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you have this kind of cloudy experience. The experience just kind of feels a little bit muddled. Maybe you have a headache afterwards. Takes a while to come back down. Whereas with the dab, it was like I was being given different feelings to feel in different moments, and I could really control it and observe it. It was really beautiful. And then when it was done, it was done. And it was like magic spell ended. Probably sounds silly, but it's true.
Right.
I've been there too with other products and just like you're saying, dabs, other things, even Purewana or like other, just stuff where it's not like I've taken the edible hangover is real. I didn't realize that till I started diving in, making my own all the time. I'm like, fucking taking all this. I'm like, I got to take it. I made it, right? Some trim and shake, coconut oil.
Like sell it on the street.
I take it. But I would take too much. But it's like that. There's something beautiful about that. Like you're saying, like the when you do have it, do smoke it. However you eat it, ingest it. When you do come off and you don't feel that groggy, sleepy-ish type vibe. That's why I stopped smoking as much during the day because I've just become more of a night consumer because I, smoking all day, every day back in the day. And then I just hit like 7 p.m. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not even like getting stoned anymore. Like what's happening right now? Why am I?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also a great point for how anybody can have any type of these products as long as there's a moderation involved and, the best way to use it too, like Teresa's small dab, if she bought a gram of concentrate, it could last her a month.
Oh yeah, that's something else. I mean,
Like...
keep in mind, I'm very sensitive to THC. Really, just sensitive to cannabis, like all the cannabinoids. I would say, anytime that I've tried something, I've needed maybe half a dose, maybe even less than what most people take. So,
and it is unfortunate, however, to realize that the way to find your tolerance sometimes is by taking it past its limit. And that's unfortunately finding out the hard way. But fortunately with cannabis, as long as we know, there's no way to lethally overdose on it. So finding that ground, I always recommend titrating up and starting small. And we know that from edibles, you can always eat more rather than less. That's kind of that motto we have whenever we talk about edibles, because, if you take 2 milligrams, 5 milligrams, and it doesn't really do anything to you, that's okay. I mean, bummer. Like I kind of wasted a gummy or whatever, but now I know that I can handle it. I know that I can come back to this 2.5 milligram edible and be like, well, I took one of those and didn't do anything for me. So maybe I'll try 5 next time and then see where it goes from there. And if you take that and you discover, wow, that really worked a little bit too much. That's why I always recommend it for starting out, with something like that. Do it at home first when you got nothing else to do for real actual observation of yourself, you know, like, and then, you know, titrate down from that. It's much easier said than done, of course. But I think a lot of people psych themselves out, you know, and it's that scary E word, edibles.
Like, when's it coming? What's happening next?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a scary movie. Like.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for it.
Right. Well, and that's now too, you've tapped into this where the drinkable market comes into play, because in my opinion, that's kind of fixed a lot of the problems with edibles. It's fixed a problem where the bioavailability and absorption of an edible is now increased because most of these drinkable products are now nano-emulsified. And for those at home, it's essentially just making the molecules small enough to fit inside the water to where it can be absorbed into your bloodstream easier. Most drinks have to be nano-emulsified because there's no fat solubles for them to attach to, like there is with the butter and the cookies and all that. So when we drink these drinkable edibles, and now they have all kinds of other cannabinoids in them too, Delta-8, THCV, they have some CBN drinkables now, and so on and so forth. That bioavailability is almost instant. You absorb it all the way down your esophagus because we have very porous blood vessels there that you know, absorb it all the way down, you know, and drinks automatically metabolize faster than anything else. So you're truly getting a 10 milligram drink when you're drinking that full 10 milligrams, as opposed to eating a 10 milligram cookie, and you're probably digesting about half of that. So, and that's why a lot of times too, you're like waiting, you're like, I don't feel anything. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap. You're just like,
I'm a cloud.
And you know, it's that can be uncomfortable, you know, for anybody, even if you're an experienced user. You're like, well, shit, man, I was hoping it would hit me way earlier than this, you know. But that's why I'm a big fan of drinks. Drinkable edibles are my favorite.
Yeah, and for those people who are more sensitive, they have CBD dominant drinks. I don't know if we're allowed to share brands, but like,
yeah, let's go.
But I really like canned drinks. I think they're great. CBD dominant, nice and sweet, but not too much so. Effervescent, and they hit you quickly. It's like, for me, it's like a glass of wine. For Mason, it would be like, I don't know, nothing. But but for someone who's new, especially, I think it's a wonderful way to kind of bridge people into the idea of drinking cannabis.
Yeah.
And there is something beautiful about that. And that's why I love this here, is just like with the CBD or like with Purewana, like the entourage effect, having all the cannabinoids in there, having those terps, having that other stuff in there. So it's like that strain specific effect is hard to get sometimes.
Right.
And that's what I've told people when I've been because I've been drinking the shit out of this. I'm like, even with smoking, sometimes it's hard to really tell and dive into a strain for me, or at least me personally. I have friends who smoke something or smell it like this is whatever. I've had a harder time at that.
Right.
But with Purewana, I'd be able to take a strain, so let's say XJ13, and like that I'm sipped right here is like it's a little more noticeable to me. And then if I have the Venom OG, it like hits differently. I'm like, oh wow, I can really hone the experience. And that's one of my favorite parts, is like, and the crazy thing is too, to your guys' point with like just how it hits everybody different, is just so many factors.
Yeah.
Whether it's the you know, your biochemistry, whether it just happened to be not, you know, maybe a different batch of edibles, maybe you had a big meal that day, maybe
it makes a big difference.
It's so different. It's like, that's why I always like to do it on like an empty stomach usually, but it's like try to, but it's like, it's interesting how it hits different too. Like I'm sure you guys know, is you've taken the same amount, same thing, different days, and it's just like, what's different?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to point out another thing too, that maybe you could even speak on, since because of your company using strain specific stuff. I think the drinkables are also solving or helping address the issue of the strain specific edibles that we're coming across. Now there's another problem with the cannabis industry in general, is how the misinformation spreads, and how different, you know, how we haven't really found out certain things yet because of our inhibition of research. But really, there's no true way through eating an actual edible, in terms of like a cookie being a sativa or indica cookie, is really those terpenes are not bypassing your digestive system, going straight to your bloodstream like you would when you smoke it. You know, it's really just being digested and being destroyed. It's not actually being affected in that way. So there's a lot of this, misconception of like, oh, well, this cookie is an indica, so it's going to make me sleepy, and this cookie's a sativa, it's going to make me energetic. And it's really just, a lot of that comes down to placebo, unfortunately. And there isn't enough regulation of the marketing that goes into these companies to hold anyone accountable for selling a feeling. And of course, it's going to be easier to sell sleep and energy as opposed to, a flavor or something near like that. So I feel like the nanoemulsion and drinkable game is a good step towards the direction of actually having some type of strain specific edibles.
And I totally agree. And I love the way that it's going, the market kind of going that way with whether it's live resin, whether it's rosin, whatever it is, kind of that element of having that full spectrum, the full profile of the plant there.
Right.
I really like how it's going that route, but kind of similarly, it's kind of interesting to see that it's harder, like you're saying, to get that across,
right?
To get that point across where it's like, oh, this is like, oh, Blue Dream, but it's like, it'd be maybe better off saying, oh, like energetic, like energy style.
Yeah.
I don't know where, I
No,
don't know if that made sense, but
no, of course. And I think that's where we're trying to direct it to at the Higher Path specifically, is moving away from the old nomenclature. Pardon me. I need a shirt that says I smoke weed, I don't have COVID.
That would sell.
Right? I think it would. Absolutely. Right now.
Especially out here.
But, we're trying to steer away from the old nomenclature, and not that it's a bad thing or anything, but even the words sativa and indica don't mean anything anymore.
It really has more to do with how the plant grows more than anything, not necessarily the feeling.
Right. Sativa is part of the Latin word for cultivation, and indica is really just the word derived that we found from India. It has no correlation necessarily with sedative or stimulation. But like Teresa said, it's all about where or how it's grown, and that can indicate what these effects can give you. Now, what we have a problem with, and especially with our demographic, because it's a little bit of the older community, baby boomers, the upper middle class kind of in Sherman Oaks, we get a lot of the people who just haven't been in the cannabis industry, aren't familiar with strain genetics and strain names and stuff. And so when they come in and they see our menu, which you saw is just vast, we have so many flower options, which is great for the aficionado who might recognize those names. But I guarantee you that the average person that comes into our shop wouldn't be able to tell you what French laundry would make you feel like. And, or, even strains
makes me feel so soft.
Yeah. I mean, even strains you and I are familiar with, we get asked like, well, what is Blue Dream? And you're like, well, that's a valid question. I mean, I can't, you can't really derive anything off of just the name. So that's where we're trying to really kind of, we'll still, of course, include these name genetics. They come from origins from our culture, either trying to, be funny or be clever, or even just, to have a code word. In high school we had a code word, or, safety meetings in college, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So a lot of that is great culture that we want to keep, but it's also to a point where our products are getting too vast. We can't keep track of it this way anymore. We can't keep saying, well, this is a cross between this and Girl Scout and OG Kush and Gelato, and then it's a crossbreed between, and because then you're just saying names. There's not really any experience backed up with that. And what we're also just really referencing anyway are the terpene profiles and cannabinoid profiles of these chemovars. And that's essentially what we are describing. Instead, we have this, it's almost making it harder in a sense to describe what these strains are going to make you feel like. XJ13, I think, is a prime example. If you ever smell that, you're never going to forget it. It's super sharp. It's piney and fresh, and there's a lot of terpenoline. So it's really like you just put Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest. It's like kind of that strong, and I'll never forget that smell. So I can, once you start recognizing that, I'm like, ooh, okay, I know that strain is going to give me some focus and some energy to it, and it's probably going to be uplifting. On the other end of the spectrum, whenever you smell lavender, it calms you down, chills you out. It's the same kind of thing with, how I feel about OGs. When you smell that woodsy, spicy kind of smells, then that's going to give you that relaxing, sedative, knockout kind of vibe. And, I feel like personally that's easier to relay to somebody rather than, oh, well, this King Louis is gonna be bomb trees, bro, and it's gonna like put you on the floor, man. Like, yeah, it's got a crazy nose on it. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to make fun. Like, we all come from that. I love having those old school names still around. Like King Louis is my absolute favorite strain of all time. King Louis OG forever, or any Kush variety. But it's time to kind of recognize it as it is. It's time to change gears here and look at it where we can all understand it, where we can welcome everybody to it. So that's kind of what we're trying to initiate at the Higher Path. Absolutely.
And that's the way it should be going, and that's a big task. It's like, because and I like the way you said, like, describing the smell, because if you think about so many other, let's just say alcohol, wine, beer, whatever, just those, that's like the first thing that what a cicerone or a sommelier would do is smell it, get those notes, feel it. And I feel like that's great that and people do that at the shops. But this brings me to another point, is I feel like so many people when I'm in shops, not maybe like half, I don't know the number, it varies per shop, but so many people come in, it's like a restaurant. They know what they want right away. Come in, bam bam, give me my XJ or whatever it was, my King Louis, I want this, and then you might even be trying to be like, but hey, what are you trying to look for? Maybe this is a little better. But people get set on their I do it too at restaurants. I'm bad at that at restaurants, I realize. Even with weed too. Even with edibles. Yeah. You get something you like and it's like nothing else right now.
Right.
That's a...
Right. And absolutely. And there's totally nothing wrong with that. And especially too, a lot of people are set in that old tradition, which is like my mama. She's awesome. She and my dad are the ones who got me to smoke for the first time.
Mom and dad.
Yeah, right. They're the OGs for real, man. They're the best. Big shout out to mom and dad. And they were the ones who also taught me that you can be responsible and use it in moderation for the way you're supposed to use it. And my mom runs an entire coffee shop by herself and smokes throughout her day. My dad is works in healthcare and as a respiratory therapist, and he does it when he can in moderation, of course. But it's they've just taught me that there's a right way to use this. There's a right way to take this plant for its benefits, and we can use it to enhance our lives rather than impair it all the time, which sometimes we want to, and that's cool. But I also want to respect that for other people. Not everybody is looking to get lit, and especially nowadays where we are finding the medical potential of all these products and these compounds of this plant. We're like, whoa, okay, yeah, you're right. It's fun to get lit, but did you know it can help epilepsy? Like, like what? So let's talk about that for a second, right? We might need some safe products for people with epilepsy. We might need some stuff that isn't called Alaskan Thunderfuck for people with epilepsy. We can still have that. That's okay. But maybe let's change the conversation a little bit too. Why is it called that? Where's its terroir? Like you're saying, from wine, like where was it grown? That would help me understand it. If it was grown in a colder climate, I would probably assume that it's going to be more relaxing. Indica dominant strains, and it's just for lack of a better term right now, but any strains that are grown in colder climates, they produce more resins, and that gives it that indica sedative quality. Sativas, mostly are grown in warmer climates, and that's why they have their longer stalks and produce the terpenes they produce. And it's back to that entourage effect. back to that entourage effect again. You know, it's having that whole orchestra instead of the one player. You know, it's having that full experience that you can get. So educating about that is really important. You know, people need to know what they're getting themselves into, and it's a little misleading with the old nomenclature that's present these days. We're here for to help decipher it.
Word, yeah.
Word.
That real talk, because there's a lot. Even somebody who's smoked since I was young and has been in the game for a little while now. Like, there's still so much to dive through. I'm still learning, like we're saying, learning every day.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's so much, and that's where it's like I've been falling off on the media right now, and I know there's been stuff like legalization stuff in the talks. I saw a couple article headlines today, but it's like, when that comes around, it'll be interesting to see, like, what you walk into a dispensary, you know, 20 years from now, you get like a MRI body scan, like
Right.
you're like a endocannabinoid scan initiated. Like,
that would be awesome. I'm so down for that. That would be so cool. Absolutely, dude. I think it's totally going to move to something like that. And you know, we also have a help desk position that actually she is the manager and director of, as well as the MVP. I just got to say, I mean,
Aw.
literally.
MVP.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. You know, I think we've, and at least from our store's standpoint, have changed the game in terms of how we can communicate with people like that. So for anybody who is, you know, curious or needs to just call and ask, you know, some questions about cannabis, we have either this lovely Teresa here on help desk, or we have 3 other trained experts willing, you know, being able to take your call, as well as live chat on our website. So if you are like, what the heck is Alaskan Thunderfuck, you know, they can be like, oh, it's actually this and this strain, let me help you make your order and everything like that. Trying to make it accessible for people too.
Mm-hmm.
That goes a long way.
Yeah, it does, man. Absolutely. And to your point you were making, like the technology advancement has helped us, and we need to catch up to it in this industry too, if we're going to be able to keep progressing.
Yeah.
You know, having our online websites functioning, and, you know, and a lot of that is unfortunate too, to the stigma. You know, Instagram has banned us how many times just for
They've been on a thing lately.
They have.
Yeah.
I'm worried that it's because the World Health Organization suggested banning cannabis advertisements, so now everybody's all freaking out about it. But so something to that extent. But
it's like when that floodgate opens up, there's going to be a huge amount of money pouring in.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I've talked about before on here too is what I love about it is the creativeness of what it's forced the community to do. We've had to find other ways to market. We've had to find a lot of it's through, you know, influencers, through content, but it's created a lot of creativity in the space and that's just me being like an optimist with it. But it's like, it's true, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's amazing how many people on TikTok now have become kind of like, you know, our news source for certain cannabis related things, because they've been able to trick the algorithm in terms of not spelling it a certain way, or, you know, or like not putting like certain terminology out there that would flag it. But I mean, that's also where thousands and millions of views are happening, where people, you know, younger than me, are, you know, on TikTok all day long, and that's where they get their information. It's kind of like when we were getting a lot of our information from Instagram and Facebook, and you know, dare I say MySpace back in the day. I can't believe I just said that out loud.
It's all right. It's still there.
It is.
I think it is.
It's gonna come back like everything else is. This will be this retro, like, fuck Facebook, MySpace is where it's at. I've always been my passion has always been, I've always been a YouTube weirdo. I'll find my news on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube's like my Google. I know they're the same company, but like I love video. I've always just been drawn towards that form of content, and that's where I spend most of my time. But I've been trying to do and that's where you guys are fucking dope too. Like, you guys have a social team, right? I walked by when I was checking it out. You guys have a social team doing a thing, and it's like so many angles that I think are underestimated too in a dispensary game from, you know, an outsider coming in who's like doing sales and stuff. It's like what it takes. I see what it takes from the outside perspective, to have that success is like, you got to be firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely.
You got to, and like, you guys have cool deals. Well, you got to what's a joint deal? I remember people were getting hyped up.
Oh
What
my
is
gosh.
Dollar J Friday.
Dollar J Friday.
Yeah.
Dollar J Friday.
Have you done that? That needs to be a piece of content. That's amazing.
Right, that would be good.
fun.
We should talk
Just
to
like
you about
just
it.
like
We'll
a
tell
close up
Tati.
of your face, like on a mic,
Yeah.
and you're smoking a J.
Friday.
You got that radio
love
voice.
it.
Thanks, man. I was on a radio show. I had a radio show in
Oh,
college.
okay. Oh shit.
Oh,
What was
fun.
that?
Oh, it was just the college radio station, but it was super fun. I went to college at Adams State University in Colorado, and they let anybody walk on and be on the radio.
Where's
there,
that?
but-
Hey man, well, no, you got a good voice for it.
Thanks,
You know,
man. Thank
for
you.
real. That's why. But like, where's that located? In Colorado?
Alamosa.
Alamosa. Never heard of it.
Yep, no one has.
A dope time though. I love
Oh,
Colorado,
dude, it
man.
was
I could.
great, man. Yeah, so it was that place is surrounded by 14er mountains, and so it's kind of in the valley of a bunch of mountains. It's
Gotta
like,
really go out of your way, kind of like.
oh yeah, dude, and it gets colder. It breaks records like in the lower 48 for how cold it gets.
Lower 48.
Yeah, so like it doesn't count
Damn.
Alaska because that's barbaric up there. But,
Damn, no
but,
shit.
Yeah, it gets bad. It was at one point negative 40 degrees. They had to cancel
Whoa.
class. they never
Fine, that's what it took.
when it
Negative
snowed.
40.
We thought it was warm.
39. We're okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. No big deal.
40 is the threshold, guys.
Right.
Yeah, when it snowed, it was actually warm outside because it was warm enough for the condensation to not instantly freeze, so it could actually snow.
I love snow for many reasons, but one of the ones I've taken in more recently, like when I go back, most of my family's in Kansas.
Oh,
so I'll go back there. Last year it was snowing, but I've noticed this before, but like just the quietness, the damper of the
Yeah.
sound with the snow, like that's my new like thing with it. It used to be sledding or making igloos and shit, but now
Yeah.
I just really like the peace, especially being in LA.
yeah.
Oh my
It's good to
gosh,
escape into the
yeah.
snow and be like looking
What
around,
is
Right.
this?
hear like a squirrel like a mile away. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's I miss that about being home and growing up in the forest. Literally we were next to the national forest.
Shit.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was really cool. I mean, pros and cons. Like Snow and we've had our day. We're cool.
Yeah.
I'm cool without it, honestly.
It's hard to beat the sunshine. I will say that. Like, give me a
Yeah.
couple days of snow and I'm cool. But like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
just go outside and know what to.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, I'm awful. Like the other day when it rained a drop, I was like, no, here we go, man. Dang it. I get
I was so
mad.
happy. I was so happy.
Everyone else is happy. Everyone loves the rain. I hate the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I moved here from Texas
I
where
was about to ask. Yeah.
yeah, it rains in the springtime
Mm.
and it actually gets pretty dang cold in the wintertime too.
Pretty dang cold.
Right. Not below 40, but we'll get down to like, 15 degrees sometimes.
Oh,
Um,
that's cold.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cold. It snows at least once a year. So, I don't know, going through all of the seasons there and dealing with, just the oven level heat. Like right now, I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what my mom is going through right now. Well, I can. I lived there for a really long time. But coming out here, I was like, I want Looney Tune, happy all day long, sunshine, beach weather, constantly, 24/7.
Yeah.
And the second that it starts to rain, I'm gonna get in a bad mood. And that's just kind of how I roll. I'm like,
Yeah.
what did I move to Seattle? This is a bunch of crap. Like I just, but I love our weather when it's awesome.
It's
most of the
hard-
time.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear great things about Texas. I need to spend more time there. I drove through it twice doing a road trip out here.
That's a great feat.
And the thing that blew my mind, and I might have said this before on a podcast, but the thing that blew my mind was some of those highways,
Mm-hmm.
75, 80 miles an hour, whatever, 2 lanes.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I got a lot of faith in this person right here driving by me. Like, this is
Yeah.
pretty. My car, like, huge, like, F-250, like, lifted. I have my little Civic. I'm like, okay.
I'm gonna die. Yeah.
Yeah, the wind just like, like, yeah, I'd
Mhm.
hear you on that. I have a lot of family in Texas too, and also in Austin, and it really is keep Austin weird out there because it is such a different place than any part in Texas.
I need to
Yeah, it
see
really
it. That's
is.
what I always
Yeah,
hear.
you
I was
definitely
like,
have to
I
go.
need to experience this
Yeah.
shit.
If
I
you've
just
never
need
been to
go.
Austin, you definitely should go.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'm slacking. I should have made a stop.
It's like a mini LA now. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's moving there from LA, and I understand in certain cases, but it's fine. We'll let them all move there. So now it's more room out here again.
Yeah, right. a little better
Yeah.
traffic.
But
Apart from the weather, would you ever see yourself maybe in the Colorado market, like, or would you maybe and deeper? What are your thoughts of the Colorado market compared to the California? Are there like pros and cons? Maybe you see it both.
yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons of both, and I'm not as experienced with California from the back in like when they were really, in the 1990s and early 2000s when like the Emerald Triangle up there was really strong and stuff. But Colorado though, when they first hit recreational, I think that it felt like a lot of a gold rush type of mentality, and when everybody got their piece, it kind of then became saturated. Now I thought it was good because everyone had access then. There was a lot of stuff being figured out, as there always was. So a lot of the the build up, there was a lot of obstacles, road bumps, but I feel like the Colorado market has a much different take. Most dispensaries in at least in my area, because it also differed on certain districts in Colorado too, just kind of like it does out here, is that each dispensary had to provide their own flower. They had to grow the flower that they sold. I think that has changed now, or that now they have more of a monopoly type of setup to where like one dispensary I know of, Starbuds, it's like literally like Starbucks, and
It's on
like
every corner.
it's on every
shit.
corner
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
I love them, actually. They're great.
Smart
Super
smart
smart.
marketing move there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's wild to me that they also still weigh out by chopsticks and by the
Oh,
jar.
wow, that's cool.
Which is really cool. I actually really miss that, by the way, about the industry here. That was such a fun part of my job. Was
Aw.
back in the day bud tending and throwing on a 1 gram nug and just being like, yeah.
There's something
That's
there
great.
is something about that I feel thankful that I got to
Mm.
experience a little piece of that.
Yeah.
That no, I guess other people won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was something to
Yeah.
it. It was a different, but it's a
Well, because your homie would come in and you could give him 3.7, and he'd be like, dude, I'm coming to you every day from now on.
He's like-
Like-
and you could have the little jars to the side, right? Your like, is it like the little Percy jars where like there's a little nug too big? It's like, oh, that's for later, right?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. Oh yeah, totally, man. And not only that, but it was such a great way to learn the flower. We had back in the day we could do free product. So oh, you get a free gram with this purchase, and that way you could get an eighth and then try a gram of something. It was awesome. Now with the whole metric system and seed to sale stuff, it's wonderful for testing and keeping that consistent, but it has lost a lot of that type of love in the industry. Same with Colorado. I feel like that happened pretty instantaneously with Colorado. It lost a lot of that love aspect that, I don't mean to be so hippy dippy about it, but I mean, it made it really retail. It made it really industrial. I love the bud in Colorado. In most cases, I've found it tests higher in THC percentage, but as we know, that's not the most important player, because I feel like the buds in Colorado are very dense, are smaller, a little dense. I think that has a lot to do with that production, that mass production. Like, oh, well, we have 10 shops and we have this one grow for 10 shops. You know what I mean? It's kind of how I feel like Starbud's experience was. Even though they're wonderful, I love their flower and their product. I feel like all of them had the same product. So I think that ties into that thing where they can only grow for their, for that dispensary. They can't hire like another grow. That may have changed recently with the new markets and stuff, but in California, it's all sealed jars, retail branded and stuff, which is nice for safety reasons. It's great for testing and consistency, branding. It really introduced the whole branding thing to cannabis because in Colorado, you still weigh it out from the mason jar into a little pop top.
Yeah,
That's
so true. That's so true.
Yeah, there's no CBX or THC design label on that weed after that.
And the thing that blows my mind too is like we're saying earlier is how many are going to keep coming too.
Right.
And like,
Oh yeah.
I wonder if like certain people, I mean, it would be smart, right, for certain companies too to like even have just rebrand the same thing. Like, because I was in the shop the other day and it was just this new type of glass jar. I was doing a pad and there was this new flower jar. I forget what it was, but it was basically flipped and it's just drawing everybody's eye. Like you said, the packaging and the branding is really interesting like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, gosh. The environmentalist in me wishes that we didn't use quite so much
I totally agree. It's a
packaging,
huge problem.
but it is beautiful.
It is.
Not gonna lie.
It's beautiful, but it has been a huge problem. I feel like that's been one of the.
That's what I feel about disposable vape pens. Sorry to hop in sometimes.
No, go for it.
No, that's just kind of, that's all.
No, totally.
Because like I've bought some. I'm like I know some people recycle them. I saw I've never used it, but that click spray, I think it is. I was in the dispensary. I saw they had a little recycle bin.
We're
for
still
their
doing
things.
it, aren't we?
Dom Pens specifically.
Dom Pens does? Okay, word.
Dom
That's
Pens.
what's up.
Yeah.
Yep. Dom Pens have it. You can recycle any disposable.
Awesome.
Them
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm at the loop. I was just like, I know. I've just have mine in my first. I'm like a weirdo like that. I've like some just sit in my drawer. I don't know what to do. I don't want them.
If you're a weirdo, then I'm weird.
Yeah, if that's as weird as it gets with you, then you're in good
just
company.
wait. Just wait.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I hear you too. Yeah, the waste is crazy.
Yeah.
And those too, they have like lithium ion batteries and shit in them, It's like we can't just throw all that shit away all the time, It's it's
then it becomes part of the vapes are so interesting too. Like I was gonna say this company's name. I don't want to throw the company out but like I was in a shop again the other day and I saw a rep come in or ambassador, whoever it was, and you guys have probably experienced this a fair amount, I'd imagine, is they came in to grab some product because they're like, the actual hardware is not working properly. We want to come grab these vapes from you. And that was the first time I'd seen it being there, and I had like the utmost respect for it because I'm like, that's really cool. Because it'd be easy just to leave it on a shelf and just let people deal with it, let the store deal with returns and deal with the bullshit. But the fact that they took the time to hop in and do it, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty dope.
I absolutely agree. I think this industry has really been a shining example of how big business or or businesses in general can almost be empathetic. Like in that sense, they're like, hey, we don't want to put these dispensaries at risk for our mess up. So we're going to do our part. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not as experienced in other big industries, but I don't feel like other companies have that much mercy for each other. There's not that like, oh, you're going to lose out bottom line. Well, tough shit. It's more like that out there. Instead here, just the other day, somebody had to cancel a webinar and there's a whole bunch of resources put all into it. And the poor guy, like, had some traffic thing happen. And we're like, that's okay. We'll reschedule, man. It's cool. And like, it's a big company and they're like, they should have their all marketing, blah, 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 everything together, but it's okay. Like, we're all in the same game together. We're going to do it sometime. It's fine, and I feel like the cannabis industry really kind of has adopted that communal sense. It's all about helping, social equity, and it's all about being leaders in, changing the stigma and hopefully environmentalism at some point with packaging.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that's what makes this experience unique. Actually, SCCBIG, I know they want to have that space downtown for business to business, but also business to customer and customer to business, because that can be one of those places where you go and network and you might meet the CEO of a company and he's probably going to be hanging out, passing out free pre-rolls, and you're going to be like, oh man, I tried this pre-roll at this place and it was so good. I need to find this. Where is it? And boom, you just made a marketing sale and you probably made a homie. You know what I mean? Like,
for real. And to that point, I would be there. I've never really been a regular at too many places, but like I would be a regular there for sure. Like once a week, I'm gonna pop by. Know I can meet some cool people smoking up, have some cannabis, whatever. Network, meet
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. Yeah, I'm excited. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like I hope it's cool to see too this new the whole lounge deal.
Right.
I know we got to cap it off soon, so I won't go on that tangent.
that's
but like
okay.
the whole how it start. I've seen some articles that's starting to come back. The whole West Hollywood deal during COVID, everything kind of shut down. I'm like, come on, baby, let's go. I'm ready for this to open back up.
Man,
Yeah.
and that's going to be the big monopoly when that comes out. That
Yeah.
everybody's waiting for
Yeah.
lounges. I'm sure we are super late if we were to try to do anything right now towards progress in that game. You know, I just think, you know, Lowell tried it already, but after that, you know, I think everybody was like, yep, I'm going to get the license for when it comes out and ready. We wanted to do that in our green room space before COVID, and we wanted to make that a lounge. Might still be in the future, but yeah, that's going to be interesting how that plays out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Vegas passed the lounge
That's
deal.
right.
That's very exciting.
that's cool.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's some new ones popping up too. I know Jay-Z's got one popping up in LA. I know like
Yeah.
J Master J's got one popping up. That's like a pizza parlor too.
Oh, wow.
Or well, like we're saying, it's kind of all in the air.
Yeah, right.
But like you're saying, it's going to be like a flood all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's why I'm like all monitoring. I'm like,
Right.
Let's go. Come on, open the floor.
Yeah, me too. Bring it on. As long as we can keep it in the hands of people who take care of it.
For real.
You know,
Yeah.
that's all I care about. And you know, that might not happen with everything, but you know, as long as I think I have a lot of hope for this industry and putting power into the right people. So hopefully we can do that now and kind of fix a lot of the mistakes that this industry has made too, you know. So
Real talk.
yeah.
For sure.
I feel like that's a good way to cap it off right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, hey, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much, man.
for
We really
real.
appreciate
Yeah,
you.
this was really fun.
If I could plug one thing real quick, we have a compassion and veterans program at the Higher Path in conjunction with the Bill SB 34, where cannabis brands can donate product to people in need. So we have a product that you can come pick up once a month for free if you qualify for our compassion or veterans program. As far as the veterans program, all you have to be is part of the the military community with veteran military ID, and you're accepted. As far as compassion, we do have some eligibility requirements, but feel free to email me or check us out on the Higher Path website for any more information on that. That also comes with a consultation from one of our cannabis experts as well.
That's awesome. And truly thank everybody out there who has served, because
Yes, absolutely.
that means a lot. It really does.
Definitely.
Yeah. And reach out anytime, 818-385-1224 to the Higher Path. You'll probably talk to our wonderful Teresa here on the phone, and
Yeah.
she'll direct.
I'm usually first on phones. And make sure to choose option 2 if you don't want to go through
There you
the
go.
entire voicemail greeting.
There you go.
But if you want to listen to it, that's okay too.
Absolutely. Check her out on live chat too. We always have a live bud tender answering questions on live chat on our website as well.
Usually it's 12 to 8, typically, or it's all day, like about 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. It just kind of depends on the day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Thank you guys. I'll be by for that Dollar J Friday.
Yeah.
Bring it
come,
on.
come by for Dollar J Friday.
Friday. Had to bring it back.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you guys.
Really
For real.
appreciate it. Thank you.
This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, ayy.